Again, I want to thank colleagues for their observations here, and I look forward to further discussion and debate on this legislation. As I said, the bill I have proposed today will have the effect of modernising and clarifying the provisions of the Gaming Control Lotteries Act 1956. And as Senator Roscoe-Welch said, it is time to update this outdated law. There's no doubt about that. And I know that everybody was commenting, and rightly so, on why aren't we bringing forward the Gambling Control Bill now. Well, it would be my dearest wish to bring it forward if I could. But I can tell you, colleagues, that it is extraordinarily complicated. We've spent the last year intensely studying this area and working on it with an interdepartmental group. We published the report for everyone's information. So that, again, people could reflect on it. We will be having further consultation on this shortly with the sector on this area. We are consulting widely on it. But it is extraordinarily complicated, and we want to get it right. Setting up an office in the Department of Justice to regulate an operation which nationally could be anything worth between €6 and €8 billion per annum was not the way to go. It had to be independent, and to answer Senator Conway-Welch's question, yes, the intention is to set up an independent regulator, completely independent of government, obviously with usual caveats with respect to reporting to Oireachtas and so forth, and acting under law. But that's what, and this has to be robust. This is what they've done in other jurisdictions. It's independent, it's robust, it's properly resourced and properly established from day one. And that's what we want to do. Unfortunately, this is not easy. It's a big operation. You not only have to get very complex legislation in place, but you also have to put in place a regulator as well to do the inspections, the enforcing, the advising, and all that goes with that. And this whole area, as colleagues have said as well, is expanding into online in a big way. So it's getting even more complex than what it was, and even more complex than it was in 2013 when we examined it at that time. And it was the heads of a bill that were published then. Now, just Senator Crockwell said the bill was published. It wasn't. It was the heads of a bill that were published, not a bill itself. And there's a big difference, as colleagues know, between publishing heads and actually drafting legislation and bringing it forward, especially legislation that's as complex as this. This particular piece of legislation is an interim reform measure, certainly. The Government has agreed the plan for a comprehensive reform of our gambling licensing and regulation system, and yes, the Government has actually seen the report and debated the report and has accepted the report. And my department is working to bring forward revised modern legislation to address in a comprehensive manner the deficiencies in our current gambling licensing and regulatory infrastructure. Could I also make the point that everyone is rightly concerned about problem gambling, and Senator Norris, who's leaving us now, spoke about it as a disease, and I think that's probably close in one way. It's also maybe an illness, a sickness, in some sense, an addiction, which is a health issue. And in every country where they have robust regulation, they still have the issue that Senator Norris pointed out of the problem gambler, and to a greater or lesser extent as we have here as well. So it's a health issue, and that's why in the actual 2013 heads and in the legislation that we will be bringing forward, and it was mentioned in the Gambling Control report, that the idea of setting up a fund to actually assist in treatment and support and help for people with this addiction and this problem gambling addiction. But I just want to make it clear that you can go so far with regulation, but at the end of the day, this is an addiction, and it needs to be looked at as a health issue. So that's that one. On the issue of the study that, again, Senator... Thank you very much. On the issue of the study, it was a Department of Health study as well, on the gambling prevalence study, and I understand it was an all-Ireland study. And again, I really cannot comment on the findings here, but my colleague in Health may do that at another time. There's a new study being carried out at the moment for 2018-2019, which will update the study findings, and which was published recently, and hopefully that will be to hand pretty soon. The with respect of this piece of legislation being a bit more robust, if you like, and updating the 56 Act and the question of gambling institutions going underground, this will be a matter for enforcement by the Gardaí. So that was brought up as well. And all gambling and lottery activity promoted will require a permit or licence, all of it. So that's there. And the self-exclusion register has been mentioned. This will be considered in the revised Gambling Control Bill as well. The Fianna Fáil Bill was a replication of the 2013 scheme, and it would actually, again, as I say, the debate at that time was useful, but I want to go a lot further than an office in the Department of Justice. A lot further than that, and that's why it's taking time. That's why it's so complicated, because we want to do it correctly. So again, I want to thank senators for your contribution here this evening. I'm pleased that people are accepting this, as I understand it, this particular piece of legislation, which is important at this time, and I want to commend the bill to the House. Thank you.